Okay everybody, I think this will be the first successful video I get up to YouTube. It's negative variables. I don't think too many of us had problems with it, but if it's something you need to look back on, this might be a good refresher just to take a peek before we hit that quiz that's scheduled for Friday. So remember, in the notes it says that we cannot have negative variables. We want to solve for our variables. In this case, for number 1 we want x to be positive, and number 2 we want c to be positive. So let's take a look at number 1 first. Whenever I have a number next to a variable, I want to use reverse order of operations or inverse operations to undo what's being done to x. Right now we're multiplying x by negative 15. That means I want to divide both sides by negative 15 to get rid of it. When I have negative 15 over negative 15, that gives me a 1. These will cancel each other out, but if I do it to one side of the equal sign, I've got to do it to the other. Now hopefully we're good enough with our math facts now that we know that when 45 is divided by 15, that will give me 3. But look, I have x equaling 45, it's a positive, divided by 15, which is a negative, is going to give me a negative 3. Now remember, for these problems we should do a check. So down here I'm going to do my check. Check is going to be taking my final answer, which I should box so it's easy for me to find. It's going to be negative 15. I just plug it in for wherever I see x. Negative 15 times negative 3 equals 45. And lucky for us, a negative times a negative is a positive. 45 does equal 45, and it checks out. On to the next one. These ones were a little bit difficult, especially on that first test. We had some that looked like this, but they didn't have negative variables in the end. Right now, I have a negative c divided by 4. To undo the division by 4, I need to multiply both sides by 4, which would be 4 over 1, so I can have them cancel out. Those 4's will cancel each other out right here and right here. But what I should do to make it so I get a positive c in the end, I'm going to divide this by negative 4, because then I'll have a negative times a negative, which will make it so that it's positive in the end. If I multiply by negative 4 over here, I got to multiply this side over here by negative 4. Sorry, I ran out of room. But here we get negative 4 times negative 6, which is positive 24, equals, now these cancel each other out. I'm left with negative 1 times negative c, which gives me a positive c. Now remember, that reflexive property will allow you to move this negative c over 4 to the other side of the equal sign. So you could have written it negative c over 4 equals negative 6 if you like the variable on the left hand side. Again, I must do a check, so I'm going to do a quick check of this answer here. And that means I plug in my variable, my answer for my variable wherever I see it. So I get negative 6 equals positive 24 divided by 4. But remember, there was this negative up here, right here. I'm going to make sure that this is negative. It's negative c. So negative 24 divided by 4 is negative 6. Negative 6 does equal negative 6. So it checks out. Now the last type of problem we're going to look at is involving those fractions, which gave a lot of people fits. In order to solve these, we need to remember that if we have a fraction next to a variable, we need to multiply by its reciprocal on both sides. And in this case, its reciprocal is going to be 7 over 5. But remember, it needs to be negative, so we end up with a positive. Negative times negative will give us positive. These guys cancel each other out. These guys cancel each other out. And it's negative times negative, which will give me a positive d. Alright, that's going to equal. Now remember, to help us, let's write 35 over 1. And we're going to be multiplying by its reciprocal. Remember, it was negative 7/5. Okay? We're going to divide here and here. 5 goes into 5 once. 5 goes into 35 7 times. And 7 times negative 7 is negative 49. Yes, we will need to do a check for this. So here's our check down here. And we're going to get, plugging our D, which I should box again, into the original equation, we are going to get negative 5 over 7 times negative 49 equals positive 35. Remember, write 49 over 1, and now we can do some cross simplification. 7 goes into 7 once, 7 goes into 49 7 times. Now I've got negative 5 times negative 7, which is positive 35, equals 35, and it checks out. All right. Thanks for paying attention, guys, to the negative variables. Hopefully you found this useful. There will definitely be more videos. Good luck.